Hello people, this is Sonali, the Melodramatic Bookworm. If you've been here before, welcome back, and if you're new to my channel, welcome to the Melodramatic Bookworm family. I'm here today with yet another book recommendations video, but in this video I will be recommending to you 10 books but in a different manner. These 10 books are great, they are amazing, they have gotten all the public love, but you have to think twice before picking them up because of their content. And we know that trigger warnings have been a bone of contention for a long time. Some authors hate them outright because they think that they are going to be spoilers. But if you give trigger warnings, then that means that you care for your reader. You care that they don't get traumatized by whatever is in the book. In this video, I'm going to be giving you 10 books with their corresponding trigger warnings. A couple of these are going to be really weird, but I hope that you will stick through to the end and see what books I have in store for you. So yeah, without any further ado, let's dive right into this video and let me share with you the 10 books which are great, which are amazing, but I think you should think twice and prepare yourself before picking them up. First up is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is the story of Vanessa, who at 32 years old is very sure that she had a relationship with her teacher Jacob Strain, but in the light of all the allegations that are coming up from a former student against Strain, she has to revisit everything that happened. And as she revisits all of it, you see that it's actually a story of child sexual abuse and domestic violence and gaslighting and child rape, and it just made me so angry. It disgusted me to no end. And the way Vanessa was conditioned and the way she was made to feel like she was the one in the wrong, and that she had to give her life up for him because doing that will mean that their relationship has got meaning and all of that. But oh my god, this book is dark. This is a fantastic book. It shows how predators can be and how they can prey on victims, minor victims as such. But please keep this in mind when you go into this book, because as much as it is educational, it is also disturbing. Next is a book that I read very recently, and it's called Sadie by Courtney Summers. This is a story of Sadie, who is now looking for the man who murdered her sister. She has gone missing, and this is told in a form of a documentary way in which a radio podcast is following Sadie's story. It's following up with whatever Sadie has done. It's like investigating into it, and as you go through it, you see the gore and violence that she has been subjected to and that has been happening. And this too follows the concept of My Dark Vanessa, but it's not as gory, as disturbing as that. I mean, you can't really compare when two books are talking about the same thing. If they happened in real life, they would be equally disturbing, but the descriptions in here aren't as gory, as disturbing as in My Dark Vanessa. I would say that listen to the audiobook. Keep in mind all of this and listen to the audiobook because it's great. The production is simply amazing. Like when you listen to it, you feel like you are actually listening to a true crime documentary. It kept me up at night because I thought about what lengths one would go to avenge someone in a family. It's a fabulous book. It's a fabulous audiobook, but keep these in mind when you go into it, because it will get gory, it will get bloody, it will get violent. Next is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. This is the story of Nick and Amy Dunn, on whose 5th wedding anniversary Amy disappears, and obviously the suspect is Nick. Amy's friends tell the police that she was afraid of Nick, but Nick swears that it is not true. But there's evidence all over the place that this could be true, that Amy was trying to flee from him. She was really scared of him and that he was doing something to her. What exactly is the truth, and does it come out to the forefront? Do people find out what exactly happened to Amy, and do people find out if Nick was telling the truth? That forms this entire story. And I'm having flashes of this book because it's so, I felt like when I was reading it, it is so unhinged, this book. Like some of the things that are happening are like, how the heck could this happen? How could a human being do this stuff just because? I don't have words to explain, but I feel like if you've been on social media, you will have seen and read about this book, and you will have made your decision about it. But if you're still planning to go ahead with reading this, keep in mind that there's a lot of violence and a lot of gore in here. This is a book about a married couple. It's like domestic fiction, but it's also psychological fiction. But if you are scared or disgusted by gore and violence, then file it away in horror also. Do it. But yes, be very careful while picking this book up, because you might end up hating it if something like this happens and you're like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. Next up is 1984 by George Orwell, and whenever you say dystopia, this is one that definitely figures in the top 3. So this is a book in which there's a lot of surveillance, government surveillance has happened, and one step out of line and the government can just erase you. And this is something that's so scary. There's nothing called privacy. There's nothing called one's own volition. There are a ton of rules. There's everything that you have to follow. Erasure of one's identity is something that you will have to contend with while you are reading this book, because it seems so real. Everything in here, you feel like Big Brother is watching you as you are reading this book. It's a creepy ass feeling. I would suggest that prepare yourself well and go into this book and read it, because in this book you will see how a fascist government works. Next isn't a book recommendation as much as it is a sort of question of sorts, because this is one book that I haven't read either, and I've been having 10 million thoughts, not just second thoughts. I've been having 10 million thoughts about picking this book up. It's called Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, and this is one of the most notorious, you could call it, I don't want to call it famous, notorious stories of a middle-aged man having a relationship with a teenager. Basically, he's a pedophile, and it just gives me the creeps. I don't know in what vein the book has been written. I don't know if it's supposed to be educational, or if it's supposed to be, if it was just off the top of the brain thing that the author wrote. But I just feel very uncomfortable when I think about this book, which is why I've been thinking twice. And I think that maybe if you are thinking of it, maybe think twice and come to terms with what you are going to find in the book before you actually go and pick it up. Those of you who have read the book, please let me know in the comments what you thought of it and what exactly it holds, so that people who have not read, for example me, can get a clear understanding of what the book is about and whether or not we should pick it up. Next up is Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. I agree that about 80% of this book is comparatively normal when it comes to the last 20%, because last 20% goes off the rails. This is about a woman, Natsuki, who is living with her asexual husband, and there is pressure mounting from all sides, her family, her friends, society, to have kids, and they have now started to wonder why they are not having kids. In her childhood, she had made a promise to her childhood friend Yu to just survive no matter what, and now when all of this comes on to her, all of this comes onto the family, now they have to do things to survive. And now comes the no matter what part, and this no matter what part is the weirdest part of this book. It can get to the point where your mind can't even process that it's happening until it's happening, and you see like, are you serious? Are you really going to do this? But then again, she did say survive no matter what, so she's doing everything in her power to survive no matter what. When you read this book, when you pick this book up, read it. It's great. I always recommend this, and I always say that this is a weird book. It's a strange book, and when I read it, I was really worried for my own brain because I really liked it. But there were some sore spots. It hit like very close to home, and I related to it in a lot of ways. But then again, that last 20%, it's like, because you weren't prepared to see the extent to which it could go, you liked it more. But if you are someone who doesn't like that stuff like bloodiness and gore and violence, not violence, bloodiness and gore, then you will have to think twice before picking this book up. It's a great book. I would recommend it, and I would say that tell yourself this and then actually go ahead and read this book, because it's good. It's really good. Next up is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. Yes, I did not like the writing that much, but I felt like the premise was amazing. This is set in a dystopian world in which there are handmaids who are restricted, and they are used only to help the rich give birth. And there is so much to unpack in this book. There's a lot of what if this happened, and it scares the shit out of me that if this were to ever happen, which in milder ways we are still seeing in society. We are still seeing the censure of women's bodies, and women are still restricted from having autonomy over our own bodies. And this is a study in the extremities. Like, you read this and you see how far society can go, it might go, and you just try to think of ways in which you want this not to happen, and how you can pull back those strings, how you can stop things before it goes to that extent. But yes, because of this very fact that it is about women and their bodily autonomy and clamping down on women's freedom, this is a book that I would recommend, even though I personally wasn't a huge fan of the writing. Otherwise, this is one that keep all of this in mind and go ahead and pick it up. Next up is When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. This is a heart-wrenching book, which is the Paul Kalanithi's own story. It is an autobiographical account of when Paul Kalanithi found out that he was dying. I think it was of cancer, I think. And he started writing his journey, his recollections with his wife, his kid. He was a surgeon, and the way his life deteriorated into illness, I can't even fathom the amount of grief that his family had to go through while watching him write this book, and while watching him succumb to the illness that had claimed him. Yes, of course, we read a lot of books by authors who are no more, but this is about an author who documented his journey from being a surgeon who actually cured all of that, and to actually succumbing to it. This is something that touched my heart. It broke it in half. And if you are someone who get affected by topics like this, cancer, death due to cancer, then please be careful while picking this book up. Next up is When I Hit You by Meena Kandasamy. This is a story of domestic abuse by I don't know if it's an autobiographical account. It talks about how the main character goes through domestic abuse, and how the husband in question, he abuses her and then he insults her. It's not just physical abuse, it's also emotional abuse. He whittles down her identity and everything, and how he brings her to the point where she believes that she is nothing. She actually looks forward to interactions with him because that's when she feels the most human. It just broke me, because Meena Kandasamy's writing is like that. It made me believe that this actually was happening in front of my eyes, and it also rendered me helpless because I could do nothing about it. It's just these stories are so prevalent, and yet society turns a blind eye to it. When something like this is happening, it's like it's their marital problems, let them solve it. We should not be, interfering in someone else's business. But when it comes to the life of a person, and when something wrong is happening, we should do something about it, be it emotional or physical abuse or both. I think this is a book that will, wreck something deep in your mind when you're reading it. I loved reading it, although the experiences that I read about were really bone chilling. It just disgusted me, and it made me really, really angry. So please keep this in mind when you are picking this book up. Last but not the least is Smut Bound by Hilary Jordan. This is set in Mississippi, in a Mississippi farm, and in which a city-bred family comes to live on a farm, and to make their living through that farming. And there are black sharecroppers also of the farm. This outlines the story of racism and discrimination and the difference in the way people and society saw white people and black people. People narrate their version of different events that happened, and you see how perspectives change. And this whole story made my heart ache. Even the movie is like that. And I know that white people writing about black people's experiences isn't something, isn't digestible, and it isn't, in most cases it isn't very accurate, because they like to embellish it. But this is a book that if you take it at face value, it's a quick read, as well as it will shake your foundations. Please be careful while you pick this book up. Otherwise, it is a fantastic book. I would definitely recommend it. So those are the book recommendations that I have for you today. These are 10 fantastic books. Of course, one or two of them have their own caveats, but these are books that you should think twice. You should think and be prepared before you pick them up. So let me know what you think of this video. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Which of these books have you read? Which ones have you not read? Which ones did you like? Which ones did you not like? What are some books that you would add to this list? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, please like it and share it to spread the word. And if you like my content and would like to see more from me, don't forget to hit subscribe and click on the bell icon beside the subscribe button to get notified as and when I post new videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and add melodrama to your life.